Welcome and step into the minds of addiction and recovery. Hello, I'm your host, Brett C. It is an honor to bring into light one of the darkest aspects of our society, addiction. With 20 years of active addiction and 20 years of sobriety, I hope to bring together all listeners on a journey of inspiration and education. With my co-hosts Jared F. and Rich J., we will be sharing our experience, strength, and hope for all listeners to enjoy and have fun with. Now, F3 Recovery brings you the Super Sober Podcast. All right, welcome to the 11th Super Sober Podcast. Welcome everybody out there in listener land and video land, YouTube. We're on all platforms. We just got through the 10th episode on the last one, and that is the finishing of all the 12 steps and the barriers and the beginning foundational work in recovery. So now we're going to have guests on here, doctors, professionals, all types of fun's going to be had. So now that we got the foundational stuff out of the way with recovery and how to get into it and learn the steps and practice it and what we can do, we're going to now start doing some other processes on the Super Sober Podcast, and this is number 11. My name is Brett C. I'm your host. I'm an RN with a BSN. My sobriety date's 4/21/03. I've been working in hospitals for about 18 years. I've been working chemical dependency for the last 9 years, helping people with this unbelievable, convoluted, deadly disease, addiction. Then we'll go right over to our left.
That was good.
I'll get
my
him
name's
a
Rich.
reverb button.
My recovery date is October 5th, 2013. Since that time, since 2014, I've been working in treatment centers, inpatient facilities, just helping addicts and people with mental illness. And then for the last 2 years, I've been in nursing school as well. And I graduate on Friday.
Yeah.
So it's
What?
exciting. And then, we have another person here that's also a nurse. And so we got 3 nurses up here, 3
What?
male nurses. And so
Let's go.
I'm going to introduce you to Anthony.
Hi, my name is Anthony B. I am a RN, BSN, and PHN. And God willing, next week I'll graduate from nurse practitioner so I can put NP behind my name.
That's right.
My sobriety date is March 29th, 1999, and I've been working in the field of mental health and substance abuse for the past 20 years.
Nice.
All right, let me give a little round of applause for all our nurses and everything coming up.
Thank you so much, Solomon. I appreciate it. And shout out to Solomon here at the podcast place in Long Beach, California, giving us the foundation place to put this out there for this unbelievable content that we hope that people can just internalize, metabolize, and digest and help change their lives and other people's lives. So we have a special guest here, Anthony. He is responsible for the Super Sober Podcast. When I was looking to get some advice on how to get the Detox, the script series that I wrote, which is the story of addiction, the most deadliest disease that man's ever faced. One of my friends gave me Anthony's number, and he was so gracious to take my call, didn't know who I was, and just started giving me information. And I know that he has written a book and pretty well known in the recovery world. And I was getting to know him, and I've seen him on different platforms. He has his own podcast himself on spirituality and knows a bunch of people. And he told me that I need to make a platform. So here we are. He said, maybe you need to get on some podcasts and then get the word out there about what you wrote. And so I started my own podcast. I don't have to worry about getting on any of them. So I took his advice, like I do, from people that I respect and know that have a good central message and that I need to take advice from these days. So God was talking through him to me, and now here I am with a platform working on podcast number 11. So what is it? First season is 12 podcasts, right? Solomon, you were telling me?
I was thinking 10, so you can call this
What,
season.
I'm in the second season?
You can call it
I
that
know.
if you want. I mean, or you can call it, you can do 12 if you want to do 12 in a season.
We'll figure this out later. So we have this unbelievable special guest here, and he's got a great story. He's now going to be an FNP, RN, 3 RNs. Shout out to Rich here. And in 1 week, he's going to be an RN. Oh my gosh. I don't know how this happened. These things don't just happen. If this is odd or if this is God, this is 3 male nurses on the same set, all in recovery. And so Anthony's here to share his story about what he's doing. So I get this text after podcast 10 because we're done with the steps right there. And he was going to be the first guest anyways. And he said he's going to be leaving. When's he going to be on the Super Sober podcast? And lo and behold, he got me before I got him. So here he is today, guys. Special, unbelievable story of transformation. Another one in the program, and that's Anthony B. So share us a little bit about your story, where you're at, and we got his website up, and he's going to be talking about the treatment program that he's starting in Ohio. He's leaving in December 20th, and that's like in another
Next week.
next week. So we need to hurry up. He needs to get home and pack. So here he is taking some time out. We really appreciate you coming on.
Okay.
So we're gonna hear some of his story. So let's get going.
Well, thank you, Brett, for all the accolades. I mean, I try to stay humble, but if you got some more, I'm more than happy to
Yeah,
receive
let's
them.
do it.
You know, and thank you, Rich, for all the stuff you did. And
Absolutely.
you know, behind the scenes, the voice of an angel happened to be Solomon. Thank you. I appreciate all the work you put in and allow me to be here.
Thank you.
I'm Anthony B, and you know, it's really fascinating because most of the time when I introduce my name, I have to hesitate because depending on where I'm at, what comes after that can make or break my entire presentation.
Yeah.
You know, I do lectures and workshops all over the place, and sometimes I might want to say, "Hey, I'm Anthony, an alcoholic," and I'm like, shh, shh, shh.
What is that?
"Yeah, you're not the alcoholic. You're wrong place." You know,
Do we got the crickets button right there? You know?
but my story is,
You're fine saying that here, though.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll say it anywhere actually. But my story basically, I was pretty much born or conditioned to be or formed to be an alcoholic or an addict because when I was younger, you know, there was always booze in the house, and you know, I'm one of those people who came from a single parent childhood, you know, and I know by studying biology, a single person cannot, you know, unless you go into biblical times, then yeah, okay,
Yeah.
single
Oh,
person,
we
yeah.
got the Immaculate Conception, Anthony.
Right.
No.
But I'm not the immaculate. I just happen to have a dad that didn't show up. That's what happened.
Yeah.
But my mom raised me, and I remember when I was younger, she used to always have friends come over, and you know they would drink beer. And after everybody got drunk, it was the responsibility of me and my sister to clean up the mess. And so as we cleaned up the empty beer cans, every now and again, I would take a sip out the beer can, and that's how I started learning how to get drunk. And once in a while in those beer cans, people
And
would.
how old were you at this time?
I was about 6 years old, you know, and
Mom.
once in a while, they would put their cigarette butts out in the beer can, so I would swallow a cigarette butt too, you know, and that's probably what caused my nicotine addiction. But that's, you know, and then I'd get drunk and I'd spin around in little circles, and my mom would congratulate me. Oh, that's my man, that's my little man, you know, and I didn't know later on that's called positive reinforcement, you know, and that just allowed me to continue that behavior to get recognition for being something.
Right.
And as time went on, this happened. And one day when I was about 9 years old, me and my two sisters, we woke up in the middle of the night and found my mom laying on the floor. She had got shot in the head, and she survived. But and it was even to this date, I think it's an unsolved mystery, and that helped formulate my belief about law enforcement because, like, do they work? I mean, what's going on here? Nothing happened.
Right.
And so she survived. We moved to a different city because I'm from back east. You know, we moved to a different city, and you know, obviously, or something happened with her personality. She got mean, like
Right. Which
super
happens
mean.
with a lot of TBIs,
Yeah, she got
traumatic brain injuries.
yeah, she got super mean, and that meanness transferred out into us kids. So I'll just call it a beating. You know,
Right.
so I got beatings. You know, when I was younger, and you know, back in the days, I'm a product of the '60s.
Mhm.
You know, even when you go to school where I'm from, if you act out, you get a SWAT for acting out. And so I would get in trouble at school, get a SWAT, go home, and get a beating for misbehaving at school.
Right.
But underneath the kitchen sink was a bottle of gin. And so I can drink the gin, and it didn't matter, you know, and that's the way my life was. And, you know,
Numbing out.
numb it out. And then I discovered marijuana, you know, which was fascinating because the first time I ever smoked anything, me and my sisters discovered that if you roll up a Lipton tea bag and light it, it smells like weed. So the first time I got high was with Lipton tea,
Wow.
you know, and from there, then I discovered all the other good stuff.
And how old were you then?
Oh my goodness, probably like 11.
That's funny because Jared and Rich were talking about how they used to roll up maple leaves and other things like that before
And
they started
it's real,
getting high.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So I'm not unique.
Well, no, definitely no. It's like romanticizing before we ever had access to like weed. We like romanticized the thought of it, so we would just pull the leaves off the tree outside. You know, very young doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Smoking
it was only a
oregano.
matter of time before you come across the real thing, right?
Oh yeah, and once you find the real thing,
Mm-hmm.
there's no turning back.
Yeah.
You know, and that just set forth, you know, me smoking weed and eating all kinds of not medication, drugs.
Right.
You know, Quaaludes and peanut
The
bars.
60s, yes.
You know,
Yellow jackets.
yeah, cross-top Christmas trees, you name it. You know, and things always go better with Boone's Farm.
Uh-huh.
You know, and that's what I used to do. You know, in my early teens, I would eat Quaaludes, drink wine, go roller skating. You know, had a big old afro with the pick in it.
Oh,
the
yeah.
pick in the bag, Donna
There you
Summer.
go,
Yeah. You know, I ran into walls and get kicked out of skating rinks. But that's just what I knew. You know, and then probably at the age of 13, I went to a person's house and they taught me how to inject drugs. And so at
13.
at 13, I'm injecting drugs
It's a
at
quick
13.
progression.
Yeah. And then at the age of 14, my mom took us to work with her. We stole some money from there. It happened to be a bank. The feds got involved, you know, fired her. And that's where I got like the ultimate beating, you know.
Yeah, she had a good job, huh?
Yeah. And I got a good beating too.
You brought the feds in on it.
Yeah. And then I ran away from home at 14.
Oh.
You know, I was never successful in school because I figured, you know, I get beatings in school. Plus, I wanted to drink and use. So I quit school in the 8th grade. And so I ran away from home, 14 years old with an 8th grade education, joined a carnival. You
You became a carny.
I was a carny.
Yeah,
Wow.
nice.
It was great, you know, because you could do whatever you want to
Right.
out there. And so I'm a carny. Usually back east, those jobs last throughout the summertime, wintertime. You know, you figure it out. And so I did. Well, after I ran away from home, I came back from the carny and I had my little bonus and everything and, you know, a big old stuffed animal. I went home. It's like, look, Mom, I'm here. You know, she's like, dude, you're too much. I'm going to, you know, so she put me in the Navy, you know.
What?
Yeah. At the age of 15, she put me in the Navy.
The Navy takes 15-year-olds?
She lied and told them I was 16.
Oh, wow.
The Navy takes 16-year-olds?
They take you at 16.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah.
No
I was
kidding.
gonna say it's like a kind of probably like a sort of like a ROTC type program, but like for the Navy.
And I remember going to Great Lakes, Illinois.
Wow.
At the age of 15, it was cold,
Oh.
you know. And here's like, I can't handle this, you know, and I act out. And the military has a place for you if you want to act out.
Oh,
Yeah.
the brig.
Well, actually, it was
Not the
called
brig,
PMU, Positive Motivation Unit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's nice sounding.
Yeah, where you
For
march
military.
out in the snow with thin gloves, and, you know. And I was really fortunate because they booted me out of the service. I got an honorable discharge because they found out I was 15.
Oh, nice.
And so here it is. I thought I could go home, and my mom said no. The Navy says no. You know, I'm rejected all over the place. But one thing worked is out in the street. So I went back to the carny, you know, and I was free to do whatever I want to with no rules. And then that was it. And at 18, my friend said, hey, man, like, let's go to California. Well, I had nothing going on, you know, because then in winter times, by then I was sneaking into abandoned houses to live,
Right.
you know.
Cold.
Yeah.
Ohio, right? It's
Yeah,
called Ohio.
it was cold, you know, and we had crates made out of wood.
Mhm.
And so I would get a bunch of crates, make a bunch of furniture, get high, burn my furniture in the chimney, you know, and smoke would come out the chimney and the police would come and remove me from my place of dwelling,
Right.
you know. Actually, I was trespassing.
Yeah,
So they, you know, and so this was my life, you know. And I would lie, cheat, steal, do whatever, you know, and inject drugs and drink. And
What was your main drug you were injecting?
back then, it was Preludins.
Prelude.
Yeah, it's a diet pill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Stimulant, huh?
yeah. I've been a stimulant user.
Well, then you drank too heavily, right?
Yeah, I
You know,
drank.
the stimulants and the drink goes hand in hand, right?
Oh yeah, it helps you drink
Yep.
a little longer.
Mhm.
You know,
That's me
and
too.
a lot more too. You know, and so that was going on. And then one day my friend said, "Hey, let's go to California." You know, and the town I'm in, it's only a mile by mile back east. And the only thing I knew about California was what I seen on TV from the Beverly Hillbillies. And so when my friend said, let's go to California, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, we're going to be living in a mansion, got a swimming pool, everything.
Girls running around.
Streets
paved with
Yeah,
gold.
man.
All that, and I'm like, okay, I want this, and so I packed up everything I owned, which was filled a half a duffel bag, and jumped in a car, 67 Mustang with a dog that threw up in the back seat over everything I owned, and we drove out here, and what a long, strange trip it was, man.
Oh my gosh.
Anthony,
What year
can I
was
ask
that?
a quick
Go ahead.
question?
Yeah, of
Sure.
course.
When you were talking about earlier when you were younger and you had access to these, how did you get access to the things that you were doing at that young age? You said Jen under the sink. Was that yours? Was it things that were left over from your mom? Were people bringing you drugs? Where were you getting stuff before the age of 14?
My mom. It's not like she supplied it, but the gin was hers.
Okay.
And it's really fascinating because I would steal the gin out the bottle and replace it with water. Now, I got drunk. I don't know how my mom got drunk. Okay, but that was
That's
what I was.
placebo.
Yeah, but that's what I was doing. Boy, if you would have known about that, I probably would have got a beating for that one too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But once I started smoking real weed, I was able to sell real weed. Get a quarter, get an ounce, a quarter pound or something, and sell it. And it's really funny because I used to hide it in the house, and my little sister found my stash, and this has been a running joke between me and her forever. And she took it, and I have one brother and two sisters, but my brother never lived with us. I mean, he left really early, and so I have an older sister and a younger sister, and I'm in the middle, and I'm in a house with 3 girls, and so my older sister could beat me up, and my younger sister would rat me out. And so
No wonder you left.
yeah. And so here's the combination of things. It's like if I beat up my little sister, my older sister beats me up. That's one. Then my little sister would tell my mom that I'm starting to fight. Then that's another beating. And then I'd go to school and get a paddle.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Back in the
By
day,
a woman.
paddle.
I don't know,
Honest God.
but whoever gave it to me, it hurt. And so I'm like stuck, and this is what I'm living with,
Yeah.
day after day, week after week, month after month. And I remember I was hiding my weed one day, and my little sister found it. And I'm like, you took my weed. And it's like, Mom,
Oh.
And then I had to tell my mom, well, she was in my room. My little sister, of course, no, Tony said I took his weed and blah, blah, blah. And and even to this day, I talked to my sister the other day, and I go, where's my weed? And she finally owned up to it. Finally.
For all these.
After all of these, after 50-something years, let me tell you, little sister, thank you, but you owe me interest.
Yeah.
But so she fessed up to it, and so here it is. Getting back to it, I'm all strung out. I'm injecting Prelude, and I'm smoking anything I can put my hands on. I'm eating any pills. I'm drinking like a fish. And my friend says, "Let's go to California." And so I came out here, and I'm thinking, yeah, Beverly Hills.
Yes.
And we cruise by, and we enter California. I seen the palm trees. I've never seen a palm tree before.
Right.
I'm like, ooh, this is nice. And we kept cruising, and we seen Beverly Hills, and we seen Rodeo Drive, and I'm like, this is nice. We kept on driving.
You should have stopped there, huh?
Yeah, we should, but he didn't, and we kept on going. Next thing you know, I ended up in Linwood.
What?
And I'm like, hold up, I didn't see this on TV. And
Welcome to the hood.
yeah, and it's really funny because when you're an addict, you can acclimate to any place.
Exactly.
And when I hit Linwood and discovered it's not where I'm going to be, because the plan was I was going to stay with my friend's brother, but I'm a liar, cheat, and thief, so I'm stealing from him, and he gave me the boot. Next thing you know, I'm sleeping in the park. But it happened to be a park where people were selling Sherm, and I'm sitting there smoking PCP. And
Nice. We're graduating now.
yeah, I'm living large, and I already knew how to inject drugs. So the cocaine back there that was ether-based, I'm injecting that. I'm smoking Sherm. I'm drinking like a fish, and I'm being homeless. And all in all, I was homeless for 23 years.
Oh my God.
23 years.
23 years.
Yeah.
And in LA
And
area.
well, Orange. I went from Linwood to Orange County.
Oh yeah, it's a little.
Yeah, just
be homeless in Orange.
Yeah, it's better to be homeless in Orange County. Let me tell you, it's completely different. Yeah.
Definitely. That's unbelievable. What a story. And 23 years. Wow.
So what happened? So
Okay.
what changed?
What changed for me being homeless and being strung out?
Yeah.
when I was all my life, I wanted to be a drug dealer. Okay, and I thought the only knowledge I needed was 28 grams made an ounce. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
And so I mean,
16 ounces to a pound.
I didn't get that far.
Yeah.
It's not when it came to cocaine. But I'm in Orange County. I made my way down here, and I was working at a Jack in the Box in Costa Mesa. And so at one point in time, I used to sell drugs out of the Jack in the Box until I got busted. They fired me.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you can get free food and
Mm.
but after they fired me, because back then we had beepers and pagers, and there was a payphone on that corner, so I would hang out on that corner and sell drugs. And I didn't realize that police officers are assigned a certain beat.
Right.
And so this police officer would see me every day on his beat. Now, back in the day in Orange County,
Yeah, not too many black guys.
there's 4.
Okay. Okay.
And I was one of them.
Yeah.
And
Count them
so,
on one hand.
yeah.
You still had your afro and everything too?
Yeah.
Bam.
And so I'm out there, and here's my best thinking. I'm one of 4 black people in Orange County, the only one that's out there in the wintertime without a coat, and my disguise was a Dare T-shirt.
That's
Okay,
right.
and so I'm standing on the corner of Harbor and Wilson, and I got busted the first time. They sent me to Orange County Jail, and I got out of Orange County Jail, and I went back to Harbor and Wilson. Well, the next time they busted me, they sent me to prison. I think it was Donovan, and I'm sitting in prison going, there's a problem, and I think, all right, maybe I'm not hiding it correctly. And so I get out, and I put the drugs in that little coin. See, I'm a big drug dealer, and all my
Yeah.
drugs I'm putting in that little coin
Yeah.
thing on your pants.
Doing big things.
Right. And so I go back to Harvard and Wilson, I get busted, and they send me
Right back to the scene of the crime.
right
That's how
back.
good we are.
Yeah.
What's wild is I live on Harbor and Wilson, and I was at that Jack in the Box this morning.
Wow. Here we
I'm dead.
go.
I'm dead
Yeah.
serious,
There you
man.
go.
Yeah,
I'm dead serious.
I'm gonna paint a picture for you
That's
there.
wild, man.
'Cause back in the day, you would have seen me. Yeah.
Same Jack in the Box. Who's really doing the dealing, huh?
Yeah. And so I get out and I get busted again.
So how long was your term over at Donovan?
I did 16, 2, and 3. I know prison sentences now. 16 months, 2 years, or 3. And I didn't know anything, And I got out and they released me again the second time. And I would go back to Harbor and Wilson. But this time I thought, well, I'll just hide the drugs in my sock.
Yeah.
That's my best
Never
thinking.
find it in the
No, and I got busted again, And this time they sent me to Chino, and for Chino they sent me to
Oh.
Chuckawalla,
Nice.
And so, I mean, I know all about those gated communities, man,
Oh my gosh.
And I can sit here and laugh at it because it took for that to happen for me to be who I am today. It's not like I'm glorifying it or anything, but that had to happen for me to become the person I am. And so, after I got out of Chuckawalla, I thought, okay, well, the problem is I need to throw the stuff when the police come.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so I have it in my hand, and
We're
I go,
evolving here.
yes, oh, definitely. The neurons are starting to fire a little
Yeah,
bit.
yes. So every time we went to jail, they were like, "Hey, dude, we would analyze the situation and go, this is where you're going wrong, Anthony.
Right.
Next time you get out there to Wilson."
Yeah. And so I'm going to keep it in my hand.
Yeah, that's right.
But I got too high and forgot it was in my hand. And I got
Left it there.
Yeah, and so they're like, "Hey, what you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing. What's in your hand?" Oh, okay. And so this time they sent me back to prison, and I'm sitting in prison. I'm going, you know what? Something's wrong. Something has to change. And I'm like, okay, I got it now. And so I got out, and guess where I went?
Back to Wilson.
No, 1 block south. Harbor and Victoria.
Yeah, Harbor and Victoria.
Different beat.
Yeah. Well, same beat. Just,
Damn.
yeah, just different year. And so this time, the police officer, I'll never forget his name because I had to, in my sobriety, I had to make amends, And at that point in time, he asked me, it's like, aren't you tired of this? And at that point in time, I was just sick and tired of being tired and sick, And I just said, you know what? Yes. Now all of this time I've been homeless. All of this time I've been strung out. All of this time I had an 8th grade education, no employment. I mean,
Right.
it's hard to find a job when you're homeless. It really is. When you're wearing the same clothes,
Yeah.
carrying the same scent, You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
exactly.
I was fresh.
No phone, maybe no ID,
No,
right?
none of that stuff.
No
man.
resume.
You know, yeah, there ain't no resume going on.
You got a prison number though.
Oh yeah, H72699. And I know the address, Orange County Jail. You know, I know that by heart. And so he saw fit, and I didn't know, but he had a friend that had a treatment center.
Oh,
And
man.
so this
So your
person,
Eskimo was a police officer.
yeah, and I'll never forget. And I
Man.
always make sure I give credit where credit's due.
Amen.
You know, and his friend accepted me into this treatment center, and I was sick. And when they said, "Okay, you're going to treatment," I'm thinking it's a good cover up to sell some drugs.
Yeah.
You know,
Now I can meet some new people.
yeah, you know, or who's gonna think?
Yeah.
You know, and so I went to this treatment center and discovered that I like it. You know, I mean, for once in my life, people were saying hi and welcome. Because when you're out there in the streets, you don't get very many hi's and welcome.
Yeah.
You know, and I am that person that hung out in back alleys. You know, I drink wine out of a brown paper sack,
Right.
you know, and I don't bathe. And I'm like a little creature in a back alley, and people don't come back there. And here I am in this place where everybody's like, hi, and they want to hug you. You know, I mean, that hugging thing that you guys do in the program,
Mhm.
that's some weird stuff, man.
Yeah.
You
Takes
know,
some getting used to.
Touchy feely
Yeah,
stuff,
right.
yeah, and
but it's contagious.
it is contagious. You know, I didn't know.
A little bit of love. Oh man.
Yeah, and when I first went to treatment, now I'm fresh out of prison.
Mhm.
You know, and these men are coming up and going, "Let me hug you." I'm like, "Hold up, man. Wait a minute. What kind of
Well, bro.
what is it?" You know, but after a while, I discovered that and they would tell me, "We're gonna love you till you love yourself,"
Mm.
and I didn't understand that. And not only did they say it, but their actions
Mhm.
mirrored it. And they would give me food, and they would say, "Don't worry, you never have to go hungry again, and we care about you." And I started getting the hang of it. And so after about 6 months, because they sentenced me to a year there, and
Mm.
after 6 months, I started going, "I like this stuff," and that's why I got introduced to the 12 steps.
Amen.
And I remember my first 12-step meeting was at a low bottom indigent men's detox. And I went,
Over in Orange County, you're still in Orange County.
yeah, it happened to be on a street called Charlie.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You
You
know.
can mention them. Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, and I love it. And I walked in, and I want to be part of the environment, and I seen what everybody else was doing,
Mhm.
and they were like raising their hand and saying, "Hey, man, I'm an alcoholic, and this is what's going on." I'm like, "I want to play," I was like, "Hey, I'm Anthony, I'm an alcoholic, and this treatment center's abusing me," and they're like, "What?" Like, yeah, it's not fair, and they told me they clapped, and they told me to just just chill out. They didn't say it that nice actually.
Mhm.
My first sponsor told me,
Some old school AA back
man,
then.
my first sponsor told me, sit down, shut the f
Yeah,
up.
yeah, that's right.
You don't know nothing, and he hurt my feelings. Didn't ask him to be my sponsor.
A little bit less than your feelings were hurt from other people, though.
No, not
No?
from him.
No,
Oh, he
no?
gave it to me
Yeah.
raw and uncut.
Oh, okay, sweet.
Oh man, I mean, just saying, shut the f up. That's minor
Yeah.
compared
Wow.
to the business he gave me that day.
So
And he did hurt my feelings. And I asked him to be my sponsor.
this was 99.
This was actually back in 96 because I had one more run
One
left.
more. Here it comes.
One
Let's
more.
hear that run.
Yeah. And I did my year in treatment. And, I think I read the big book wrong
Mhm.
because I thought it says one day you could drink like a gentleman and our hats are off. And so I went out to drink like a gentleman. And I tried controlled drinking and then ended up doing controlled substances. And next thing you know, I'm back in a controlled environment,
Right.
And they say a head full of AA and a belly full of booze don't mix.
Right.
A head full of AA and a body saturated with methamphetamine would drive you crazy.
Yep.
Because I wanted sobriety back so bad. Once you get a taste of recovery
Mhm.
and you go out again,
The
you
seeds
wish
were planted.
you wish you could get it back. And I remember out there just out of my head. And the only thing that kept echoing is keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. And that's what I heard under the influence of methamphetamine. Just keep coming back. And then I'd get a pause and it works if you work it. And so I was at that jumping off point. And on March 28th, actually on March 27th, I finally said, you know what? I remember the ABCs of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm an alcoholic, cannot manage my own life. No human power can relieve my alcoholism. And God could and would if he saw. And I remember saying, you know what, God, I can't deal with this anymore. You know, and on March 28th, I got arrested the last time in my whole life. And I've been sober since March 29th, 1999.
Two questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, let's go.
First question: how long overall were you incarcerated? Like in all the times you went?
I spent most of the 90s in prison, in and out of jails.
Okay.
I get out in 92. I'd go back in 93. I get out in 93. I go back in 94.
Wow.
94.
Parole violation. Parole
Yeah.
violation.
Exactly.
Parole violation.
Yeah.
Well,
Parole
I was
violation.
getting new cases.
New case parole violation.
Half measures avail me nothing. You know.
Yeah, and the second question: when you sort of broke the sobriety, I don't know what you call it, fall off the wagon. What was that feeling like when you sort of came back to your senses and said, "Damn, I just sort of lost that time"? Was it something where you sort of sat there and dwelled on it for a while, or did you sort of jump back up and say, "Time to start over"?
I relapsed. I drank a beer and I shot methamphetamine. And once I shot that meth, I went, holy crap, what did I do? You know? And then all of a sudden it's all about, I gotta have more, please give me more. I mean, that's where my mind went. And I had that moment of clarity. It's like, dude, this ain't working. Because once I was sober, I established a new group of people. Then once I relapsed, it was hard for me to go to this new group of people and try to act sober.
Right.
It's really hard to act sober under the influence of methamphetamine. I mean, you're sweating and you can't sit still. You're licking your lips it's crazy.
And they know.
And they know, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so talk about feeling alone, right?
Yeah, I couldn't live with it and I can't live without it. And so finally I asked God to help. And God did what I am that person. I have to be physically removed from society to stop my drinking and using.
Mhm.
The book says frothy emotional pills seldom suffice. And you couldn't beg me to stop. But God allowed me to get arrested so that I could stop. As many times as I've been in jail, I used to party in jail. I did methamphetamine in prison and got paranoid because the police was there.
Yep.
That's my best thinking.
Make it pruno.
Yeah. And nobody wants to be my cellie. It's like, dude, why are you looking at the bar, man? You're gonna make the spot hot. And it's like,
Oh, my
Wow.
police is there. And I'm insane. But finally,
Get it.
that happened, and after that, I just been sober and doing good, doing
Right.
really well.
So we're about halfway through the podcast right here. See, I mean, it's hard to get so much of such a story of. And how long do you have sober now?
I have 24 years.
23 years of homelessness, 24 years of sobriety. To encapsulate everything within 45 minutes of a podcast is a pretty difficult task. But so you get sober.
I got sober.
The seeds were planted down there in a street called Charlie,
Mhm.
which we all know. It's
Yeah.
pretty famous down here in Orange County. So it's a low bottom indigent rehab place where you can go,
Mhm.
non-medical detox. So you ended up getting sober and staying sober.
Yes.
So what happened? How did you get from there to becoming a nurse and a new career? And what's going on there? I mean, we went over the homelessness. So should we show the video right now? A little bit of preluding into this one? Why don't we go to the video and we can show that and then we can get into the solution and where we are now.
Sounds
Sound
good.
about
Perfect.
right?
All right.
Don't quit before your miracle happens.
Addiction, alcoholism, separation, racism, gang violence, abuse. These were just some of the things that faced me as a 10-year-old boy. Beating so bad that they left welts on my body for days. Witnessing my mother's violent boyfriend. Coming home to find my mom in a puddle of blood, shot in the head. Things were different after that. I was different. I had a hole that developed in my soul, a soul sickness that I couldn't escape. physically, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually bankrupt. I started running, and I didn't stop. By now, I was addicted to every kind of drug I could find to fill that hole in my heart. Homeless at 14 years old, I walked the streets of Ohio and beyond for over 23 years. This is my story, living on a park bench, but it could be any homeless person's story. Like a never-ending tornado taking everything in its path, until one day God intervened through one person. One person believed in me for the first time. One person made a difference in my life and offered me a way out. I have lived through trauma and discovered resiliency. I have lived through addiction and found recovery. I have been incarcerated and discovered rehabilitation. I have been homeless and found residency. All of these are facts, but the bottom line is that we all have a story. For me, I'm no longer living on a park bench. I'm living my best life now in my own version of Park Avenue.
Pick up your copy of Anthony Brown's biography, From Park Bench to Park Avenue. Proceeds will go towards helping the homeless find hope and freedom in a home called Brown Manor.
Wow.
Wow.
Awesome stuff. So now that we got a little foreshadowing of what's coming on, how did this come about? So you get sober, you cry out to God, you get this energy coming in, you've had the seeds planted. I mean, how did you get into nursing? I mean, what was the next mentorship coming in?
Well, it was fascinating because after I was sober 2 years,
Mhm.
I went to the park I used to sleep at, and I sat there and I had a conversation with God. I just went directly to the source, and I remember saying, God, I know this bench is solid, and I know cars run on gas. I know this for a fact. Prove to me you exist, and I'll do whatever you want me to do. And I learned, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
And I had my first real spiritual awakening. It was just so profound that there was no denying it. And then I got this overwhelming ease and comfort within me that I still carry to this day. And I was given 3 directions to always follow. 1, don't hate anybody. 2, don't intentionally harm anybody. And 3, finish everything you start. That's what I was told. And I started going to school, and I completed school because I started out with the 8th grade education.
Mhm.
And I got my GED in the county jail. And I started going to college, and I started completing courses. And from that, I got licensed as a psych tech. I continued to go to school, and I got my nursing license as an
But
RN.
what drove you to being a psych tech though? Who was the guiding influencer into that?
At one point in time, somewhere in my career, I worked as a janitor at a mental health
Okay.
at a state facility, and I didn't like the way that they was treating the clients.
Mm.
And they said, "Well, if you think you could do better, go to school." Well, it's hard to go to school when you're under the influence of methamphetamine,
Yeah.
because I've discovered you'll highlight everything in the book. You won't read them. And so I was a failure there,
Mhm.
But then after I had my conversation with God, I had to go back and finish that,
Okay.
And so I completed that, and I just, I went to school, become an RN, and even with a criminal background, becoming an RN is a challenge,
Right.
because I have, you know, criminal history. I have,
Right.
a DOJ
Right.
rap sheet and all that,
Exactly.
and so I had to jump through some hoops.
Mhm.
And I love it because AA. There's a saying in AA: if you want what we have to offer, and you're willing to go to any length to get it.
Mhm.
And I wanted what they had to offer, and I was willing to go to any length to get it. And so I'd pray, and I went to school, and doors open. The next thing you know, I get licensed as a RN. Then I went to school to get my bachelor's. And I love having an addictive mentality because that makes me want more.
Yeah.
So in the middle of all my breaks, I went to school to become a certified anger management facilitator. I went to school to become a substance abuse treatment specialist. I went to school to become um, my God, I have so many initials behind my name. I have more initials behind my name than I do in my name. You know,
So you got into the educational
I
hustle,
I got into it, and then after that,
and they
um,
were paying for it too.
yeah,
You qualified for all the
I took
FAFSAs and Board of Governor fee
all of that
waivers.
stuff.
Listen to this, guys. Listen to this part of the story here. Got
Yeah,
3 people going through this.
yeah, and I qualified for it.
Mhm.
You know, and I just continue to
Absolutely.
do it, and I start working, and then next thing now, I'm going to school to get my bachelor's. You
Mhm.
know, and so I'm getting my bachelor's, and
And now you got a career.
now I have a
Kinda got a
career.
foundation.
I have a
Yeah.
career, and then I go to a bunch of 12-step meetings,
Right.
and people have heard my story, and they're like, "Well, dude, you should write a book."
Yeah.
You know, and I'm an alcoholic. Don't tell me I should do something
Here it comes. Here
because
comes
I'm
the
going to do it. You know, and remember, I have to finish everything I start.
Right.
And so I wrote the book, and I'm thinking
Ooh.
I'm only gonna go to different meetings. Maybe I'll get 100 copies and go to different
Yeah.
meetings. You know, and I've learned a long time ago, just do the footwork and leave the
Mhm.
results up to God.
That's right.
And so I did the footwork, and I put my book out there. Next thing you know, it's like I'm being featured on, Fox 11, and it's just crazy, and it just blew up, and I didn't
As it
even.
should. It's a great story.
Yeah, and I didn't even anticipate it, and then people are asking me, such as yourself, say, "Hey, come do a podcast." I'm like, "Okay, great,"
Mhm.
because I want people to know that no, and this is an AA thing. No matter how far down the scale you have gone, you can see how your experience can benefit others.
That's right.
And here I get to, talk about how well the program works when you couple that with God and a lot of work.
Unbelievable.
You know, and so at that point, the book is selling. I'm advancing in, my education, and I get a call from my brother, and he's like, "Man, I'm doing bad. I'm living in this abandoned house." Okay, I understand abandoned houses. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
Are you
"Okay."
burning the furniture?
Yeah. I don't know if he was as sophisticated as me, but And so I said, "Okay, I'll help you out." And so I reached out and I bought a 9,000 square foot abandoned 1916 mansion, and that's where I call Brown Manor. And
And God gave you this
God gave
insight to do this
to do that.
with the funds of the book and
Exactly.
other mentors that
Exactly.
you've gotten and everything.
Exactly. And since I've been homeless, it's like, why not help the homeless? Because they say you have to give it away to keep it.
I love that aspect.
And so now, I have this big house, it's like, hey, what I'm going to do with it? And through my education, I decide I see homeless people everywhere, and it
Right.
touches me. And so with my education, I created a new model of treatment specifically designed for homeless people. And I get to go out there and implement this,
Yes.
and I'm super
Who
excited.
better than the homeless to implement some change for the homeless?
So are you going to be bringing people into this house? Is it going to be like a
Yes.
structure, like a program running out of this house?
It's more like a family thing. I don't want to use the word program
Mhm.
because people kind of get
Cringe from it.
uncomfortable,
Mhm.
but it's
I've been to the program before.
yeah, I've been in a program. But it's a 12-bedroom house. I won't allow no more than 18 people there, and it's a family style. It's peer oriented, and we're just gonna sit back and just eat, sleep, and talk about how to
So
change
more
our
laid
lives.
back and more of like,
It's a family environment.
come here if you need us.
Yeah.
And we're gonna.
Yeah.
It's like and there's gonna be like some mentorship going on. I
Yeah,
assume.
and I'm hoping you get a 2-year stay because it takes a little while. There's Homelessness is a complex issue.
Very complex.
It isn't like I'm gonna put you in the house and everything's gonna be fine. I mean, I've studied this for a while.
The 2-year aspect, there's a magic around 2 years. If you
Mhm.
can stay around that 2-year area.
Can you give us like a couple? Because you said you have this. You're going to implement this idea on how to deal with homelessness.
Mhm.
Can you give us like some highlights? I'm sure it's very complex, but can you give us like some highlights on what that looks like?
Um, well, if I give away my secrets, other people take it. But hey, why not? The main thing about coming in, your admission criteria: one, you have to be homeless, and two, you have to come in with some sort of goal initially.
Mhm.
We're not giving you a goal. You come up with your own goal. I don't care what it
Yeah.
is, as
Beautiful.
long as it's something.
Super
Awesome.
personable.
Right. And once we obtain that goal and you hang out with us long enough, then we'll build on other things. And I'll gradually slide in some things. If you have some medical issues because of my NP and my nurse training, we can help that. If you have some mental health issues, we can help you get medically cleared, if you have some detox issues, if you have some social skills, job skills, there's a lot of different things we're going to work on.
We're talking about the whole package.
The whole
here in a
package.
2-year time frame. That
It's
sounds beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really, I just thought of it.
Because so much of it's such a conveyor belt. It's like boom, boom, boom.
Right, right.
We
And
need
you're,
that accountability for change.
yeah, and you're doing it in a home-like environment.
Right.
We're like all brothers and sisters anyway.
Exactly.
And so that's basically what it is. I even wrote a workbook specifically designed for that environment, and this is the first prototype. And I there's a lot of different things that's gonna go on there, and you'd be amazed the family what family can do is
Mhm.
get to places where other people can't, because you're invested
Right.
into it.
Absolutely, especially if you're living around people who are living differently or who
Mhm.
are trying to live differently. Like the power of influence is so huge.
Mhm.
It's difficult. Like even for people in sober living, like most people in sober living, unfortunately, they don't want to be there, right? Like a
Mhm.
lot of, especially in this area, the people get sent to treatment by their parents or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So then you have like the one person that's in the sober living that's trying to actually stay clean, but
Yeah.
because they're with these people, 20 hours a day, right? That power of influence is so strong that even a person that wants to be in recovery isn't able to get there
Mhm.
because they're around these people majority of the time, right? And it's like we become who we're around,
Right.
So it's
Sober-ish
like
living.
Exactly.
so that's a
Yeah,
key
exactly.
that I believe that's a huge piece,
Mhm.
especially if everybody in this house, you guys are going to be living together, it's going to be a family, and that's where change can happen,
Mhm.
right? Because there's that consistency within the house.
Right.
You're investing in yourself
Right.
and the people around you. But what about the boundary aspect of that?
What do you
What
mean?
about when they relapse or if they
Mm.
make that healing environment become,
Toxic.
toxic?
Well, then you have to. We're
So there's good
Be more like
contract.
probably a
there's
case by
history.
case
You
basis,
guys
I
Right.
would
are-
assume.
It's a community based thing. I've known from my experience. Sometimes you don't get it the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
of
Okay,
course.
but again, everything's going off of your goal. I understand that if you get sober and you're doing well, and you relapse, okay, go somewhere else and get detox. 'Cause I don't need, or we don't want intoxication or people not being in their right frame of mind. Same thing was if you have a mental health breakdown, then I'm going to coordinate services with other entities out in the community.
So everything's facilitated, coordinated,
Right.
in a proper.
And the best thing is when if you do detox or if you do have a lapse on your mental health, one of us is still going to come and visit you.
Right.
Mhm.
You're
Gonna
part of the
follow up.
family.
Yeah.
We're not going to leave you.
The alumni.
Exactly.
Exactly. What
Yeah.
a powerful.
Is the goal to get back into the house if that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. You still have a spot.
How
Okay.
long would you hold the bed? I mean, this is. I know this is a lot of questions. It's so vast.
It depends on depends on your
Case
motivation.
to case.
Right. Because again, the simplest thing to do is have a goal walking in the door.
Right.
Okay. And once we achieve that goal, okay, now that you got this, we're gonna give you what we call positive reinforcement. Attaboy, good job, man.
Yep.
Exactly.
You did this. Now let's look at this. And see, in the meantime, you're gonna pick up a chore around the house. Everybody's going to.
Right.
And you're gonna own it.
Acts of esteem.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is your house.
Yeah.
This isn't my house. This is your mansion. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a big if, you walk through rooms and the sun hits it and you see prisons. It's a 1916 mansion.
Yeah.
It's like-
It's a beautiful.
Yeah.
place.
And this is your house.
And
you
you're
know?
going out there now to facilitate the. How much longer till it's going to be up and running?
I'm hoping that we open the doors this year. That's my main purpose, because I've had that house for 3 years and it's really hard to set up a brand new program not
Right.
being there.
Right. Exactly.
And so I'm
So
going-
just know that he is leaving a place where he's got a solid job, foundation, friends and family, all these years of recovery, because he made a deal with his higher power
Mhm.
that he was going to follow the next indicated step and not stop what he started.
Yeah.
Big time character defects for a lot of us. Right there on 6 and 7 right there in the program, not finishing what we start. And here he is finishing his FNP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we can totally relate. I knew I was going to go and get my BSN once I started as an LVN. It was no intention to stop whatsoever. I knew I was going to get my BSN, and then I was going to reevaluate at that point. And in our career field, where Rich is right now getting his RN, and then still 5 months to go on his BSN. And then previously, before the podcast, in our field, it's always more about, well, what are you going to do next?
Right.
Are you going to get your MSN?
Well,
your
I love the
FNP,
goal aspect of this, you know, because I feel like that's very important for recovery. It has been for me. I know a lot of people who are in recovery who, I mean, we all got our own goals, and I don't know what everybody's goals are, but mine are pretty obvious. I think that people know what's going on in my life. And, you know, you talked about the goals for the people in your, that are going to be in your house. And it's important.
Mhm.
That's important because typically, like,
Yeah,
at
no
least for
matter
me,
how
like
small.
when I got clean, when I'd wake up in the morning, if I didn't have something to look forward to,
Mhm.
but I have something to shoot for that day, short-term goal or long-term goals came later on, right? But like a short-term goal for that day, it made it really easy to go back to what I know, you know, and I did that many times. And so now goals is like something I live for. I live for it. Like I wake up and that's what gives me hope is like, is looking forward to the next thing that's coming down the line, you know, and it keeps me accountable and it's part of what keeps me clean because I got shit going on, right? Like I can't just go get high. I got things I want to
Yeah.
do.
Right.
And now those things, not only do I know that they're possible, I know that anything is possible now. When early on in my recovery, I wasn't too sure.
Mhm.
And so that's a vulnerable time for relapse. But now that I know that things are attainable and I can always have more, it keeps me looking forward to the next thing, which keeps me waking up hopeful and keeps me kind of focused.
Mhm.
You know, so I think those short-term goals with the people in your house and just having goals like within yourself is key, you know, for recovery,
Right.
you know.
Absolutely, and I believe in that. I think some of the things I want to teach people because I think everybody wants something, you know, and not only do I share what's going on, but I want to be an example. I want people to understand that
Mhm.
even though at one point in time I used to eat cheeseburgers out of a dumpster,
Mhm.
now God willing, I'm going to be writing prescription for medications or you know
Right.
doing differential
With
diagnosis.
all of this information and application that you got from your history, you're not just going out there to just medicate a problem,
No.
but in the right fashion. We got medical professionals sitting right here, right now. And we all know a bunch of them that all came from the streets
I was
and
talking to
from the
somebody
problems. It's unbelievable.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, "Dude, I was like, isn't it crazy? Turns out, like prescription drugs were actually created to treat diseases." And it was like amazing.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, I found out like these are actually have a useful purpose other than getting high. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
amazing.
Right. And it's
Wow.
another thing because my next thing is a lot of people always ask me, well, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Mhm.
And my thing is, you know, in my head, of course, I came out with the secrets of life. And the secret of life is how do you find ease and comfort as you walk through and navigate this existence?
Mhm.
And in the end, you find peace, you know, and how do you live that part? How do you get to that part? And because I've done quite a bit of everything else, you know, and me and God's my best friend. We talk every day. I get up in the morning, I hit my knees before I hit my feet. That's just what I do. And I laugh because God understands me, you know. And I ask him, it's like, what should I do? You know, am I done with school? He's like, no. And so now yesterday I enrolled in a master's program for theology,
Wow.
you know, and it's like, okay, you know, and I used to always say, you know, God, I'm tired, you know, and God would laugh and go, well, I'm not, you know, okay, you know, because I'm always,
Oh, man.
you know, that 11th step, you know,
Right.
praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out.
And we got that power
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah. And so this is good stuff, you know.
It's good stuff. It's out there for everybody.
It is.
This isn't just our testimony. There's so many testimonies out there. I mean, man, how is the God not going to bless Brown Manor?
You know
And
what?
then all the lessons that are coming out right now, the change in the trajectory for mental health and the people doing things here in Orange County with places like Be Well and what's happening here, it needs to change. It has to change. It can't be the same treatment modalities that has been going on that leaves us in the same sick area that we're at now.
Mm.
It's for the people, by the people. It's people like you, me, Rich, all the other people out there that now hold these lofty degrees. that are in the conversation when I come in. And it's like they don't see me as this old drug addicted street person. They're seeing me as who I am and who I really am, and somebody that's got somebody to bring something to the conversation that's real,
I
that
think,
knows where that comes from.
dude, that personal experience coupled with the medical knowledge and the degree, you bridge those gaps and you put that together, and it turns into something powerful.
It is. It is. And you'd be amazed at the places that you're invited to because of your experience and your education. You know, if it wasn't for the education, I'd never be able to speak my experience. But if it wasn't for my experience, I wouldn't be at a point where I can gain this education.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's why I said in the beginning, I had to go through what I had to go through
Exactly.
just so I can appreciate the little things that build up to make a lot.
And that's the spiritual awakening for people, is no matter what happened, that you get to the point after you practice the 12 steps. This is a Super Sober podcast, that you'll get to a point to where no matter what happened in your past, you'll be thankful that it all happened to get you to that point of your life.
Mhm.
And for us, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time, I've been living in this state of grace and being able to keep myself accountable through not forgetting where I came from, not meeting up with notorious JID, and going back to the jails, institutions, and death, and all that stuff that we know so well, and living happy, joyous, and free.
He's
Yeah.
out of his cage today, by the way, huh?
He is.
Huh? Oh yeah, he's
Yeah,
out.
he's
He's
out
out
of
of the
his cage.
cell. So
Hey, I
he's
have
kicking back.
one more question before
Sure, of
we get
course.
close to wrapping up. Anthony, I noticed just in sort of the tenor of how you're speaking about the Brown Manor, um, listening to your story, where you sort of felt like you had to get to the point where you decided you wanted to come up off of everything that you were doing, and you made that decision. It wasn't where someone just sort of scraped you off and took you from the bottom. You got up to like level 2, and then they sort of helped you get the rest of the way. I'm sensing you're trying to put that same element in the Manor House, where you're not taking people just off at zero. You're taking people who've decided that they want to do something different with their lives. And you're saying, if you do something for yourself, then we're going to come in the rest of the way and help you. Is that the case with Brown Manor?
It's pretty much. I mean, I'm always out in the street talking to people,
Yeah.
and some people just aren't there, and it's unfair to them to try to help them hit a bottom. And so that's why I say when you walk in the door, you have to have a goal. Like, what do you want to do? And once you establish that goal, then that shows me that you're willing to do certain things. You might not be 100% sold, but at least you're open and you're aware. You're past that pre-contemplation. You're into the contemplation
Right,
phase of
right,
change.
right.
And once you get
The
there,
ASAM stuff.
right.
Another level there, guys.
Yeah, and once you get there, then all the opportunities you see floating around you becomes possibilities,
Mhm.
opposed to saying, "Okay, well, here, get off the street. This is what we're going to give you." It's like, "Well, I don't want that." It's like, "Okay," but once you walk in the door and you say, "Okay, well, I want something different." Okay, well, let's work on that. What do you want? And that's what I like about what's different from us, or this this um this prototype. It's like it's. I mean, I hear a lot of places go, "Well, we're goal oriented." No, you're not. We'll give you a goal and you're going to reach it. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I want you to tell me, and
Right.
then once you achieve that on your own, then you're going to be, man, I could do something. It's like, you think you do something? Try a smidget of this.
Yes.
It's like, boy, that tastes good. Well, add a little bit of this. The next thing you know, you have this whole hodgepodge of soup of goodness,
That's right.
and you're like,
You
this
got
is
the recipe.
yeah, this is indescribably delicious.
Oh, man.
And I look forward to seeing that.
Yes. So we will be following up with you,
Well, thank you.
and we can always remote you in on future podcasts.
Sure can.
Brown Manor will be on the F3 Recovery site. We are winding down here on podcast number 11. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. Shout out to Rich here again. And if we can become medical professionals, you can become a medical professional. There are no excuses out there. There's no excuses. Recovery and through the way is just unbelievable powerful. There's people in recovery in every phase, everywhere out there that are willing to help and to get you to your next indicated step. Some doors are closed. Yes, some doors are closed due to history, but not this one through the medical field. So I
Right.
help mentor people, Rich is going to help mentor people when he gets through it. And then so is Anthony. So we're going to shout out here. We're on all platforms, on all listening platforms through Buzzsprout. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Get on TikTok one of these days. Spotify, all listening platforms. You can see our video on YouTube. All you have to do is just go to Super Sober Podcast, punch it in. We're there. We're on This is the Detox, the story I wrote, a story of addiction, the deadliest disease a man has ever known, on F3 Recovery. You can see the one sheet. You can see the whole little story behind it. It's basically a PowerPoint presentation. It's called, it's a spec script for Hollywood. So we all have something in recovery that we can watch. And it's on the platform at f3recovery.org. You can reach us. If you have any questions for Anthony, Rich, anybody, please email us. No spam emails from the people out there that we've been getting on info@f3recovery.org and info@supersoberpodcast.org. And you can go to the recovery resources information page there, and you can see the remote tax doctor, a growing platform of different recovery resources, and get some skin in the game. And we will be back with more guests, information, stories of transformation, and we're out there doing it, and just keep on keeping on. Thank you for listening to the Super Sober Podcast. Go to our website at f3recovery.org. That's F3Recovery, all one word, .org. We're turning fight, flight, and freeze into free form and flowing through practicing the 12 steps and staying accountable to change. Don't forget to keep on keeping on.